continuing. My phone died, so now I have to hold it because it's charging. So okay, so yeah, so my best friend, I remember calling her, like, being hysterical, like having just like a weak moment, and calling her and being like hysterical, and she would be like, Alex, like, you're not happy, like, come home. And that was like a really like an important lesson for me, because like when you're doing something that you know, like when God's taking you somewhere, like when God's doing something with you, it's okay if other people don't get it. Like, even like my best friend in the world who knows everything, like knows me better than anybody, even she didn't understand, and that's okay. But that's why you need to be so solid, like, in your relationship with God. Like, you, like, we need to, like, hear God for ourselves. And you can't always, like, ask people their opinions, or, like, because sometimes they just don't know. So I remember being, like, having to, like, rise up. Which I'm so grateful for this, because this really, like, grew my faith. Because even though, like, on the outside, like, it looked like I was, like, not okay, I knew the reality was, like, that whole experience was, like, both. Like, it was, like, so uncomfortable. So yes, like, my humanness would come out sometimes, and I would be, like, struggling. But I also knew how beautiful the season was, and how much I was growing and stretching, and, like, getting, like, pruned. Like, literally, like, the bad things were getting taken out, like, being brought to life, like, not to life, oh my gosh, being brought to the light, like, brought to the surface, like, things that God needed me to deal with, that he needed me to, like, push away and reject and not have in my life anymore, like bad habits, bad mindsets, strongholds in my mind, like blocks, and like limitations and things like that. Like, he was working on me and helping me to, like, get, like, purified and sanctified, and learn how to trust him. So all that was going on. So I remember her saying that to me, like, you're not happy, just come home. Like, she was just trying to help. And I was like, you don't get it. I'm like, no, absolutely not. I'm like, this isn't, I don't know if I said this, or I don't think I did. Maybe I did a little bit, but I knew in my spirit, like, I knew, like, I didn't care about happiness necessarily. Like, this was bigger than happiness. Like, if I wasn't interested in cheap fixes anymore. I wasn't interested in, like, a temporary happiness or anything like that. Like, I wasn't interested in, like, going out and, like, feeling like a temporary relief even. I needed to go through. Like, I'm like something would, like, rise up in me, like faith would rise up in me, and I'd be like, no freaking way. Like, I almost needed her to say that so I could, like, find it within myself to be like, no, God is taking me somewhere. I'm not turning back. I'm absolutely not turning back. God's taking me somewhere. I know that he is. He wouldn't bring me this far for me to just turn back. Like, I'm not going backwards, and I'm not allowing that to happen. So, those moments were really important for me to, like, allow that faith to rise up, and, like, allow God to show up, because without faith it's impossible to please him. He loves that. He loves when your heart is full of faith like that. So, and he came through for me every freaking time. Like, there were so many like times where, like, I wanted to, like, run away and, like, go back to comfort, and he always came through. So during that time, okay, so I'm in Tennessee, learned a lot. And there's this song by Hillsong called New Wine, and I would sing it, like, oh my gosh, I would sing it, like, all day, every day, and just, like, weep. So powerful. And I feel like saying those words out loud, it was like, we don't even know, like, how powerful our words are. But in the song, it talks about, like, bring new wine out of me. I haven't heard it in a while. I want to listen to it now. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what it says. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Like, in the crushing, in the pressing, bring new wine out of me. And like, I'm telling you, there was like no one I could even like talk to about this like experience, because no one where I came from, I didn't know anybody who went through anything like that, who had any type of experience like that. I couldn't ask questions to any human. So I grew a lot. And then, so here's like where it gets kind of cool. So I'm listening to, again, I forget if I said this on this recording or the old one, but I believe it was the old one. So in Tennessee, I'm listening to Jonathan Shuttlesworth. He's a minister in Pittsburgh, and he would broadcast a lot and teach and preach. And he's like, I always say he's like the best preacher in the world, like who's alive right now, the best preacher in the world. So his preaching is really powerful, but he would also teach really well. And so I remember like listening to him a lot. He also was really consistent in like his content. So I learned a ton from him. And he gave his testimony one time about another minister named Dr. Rodney Howard-Browne. So I'm like, who is this guy? Like, if this guy spoke into Jonathan's life, he must be like pretty amazing. So I'm like, who is this guy? So I looked him up, and he had a church in Florida. So then, and I didn't have a church in Tennessee at the time. I like tried to go to a couple churches, but it just like wasn't like enough. Like I needed, like, I'm telling you, like I was like running. Like I wanted to know everything as fast as possible. I needed to know it all. So like I just felt like I had like a lot of time to make up for. Like I was a little late to the game, which I just heard, I don't know, I haven't looked this up myself, but I just heard like only 10% of people get saved like later, like in like, because I got saved like later 20s. I think most people, like if they follow Jesus, it's for the most part like when you're younger. But I want to look into that, and I want to see, because I think this all happened when I think I was 25. And yeah, so I just felt like I had like a lot to catch up on. So anyway, I was like craving more. So the churches that I went to in Tennessee like weren't really it for me. Nowhere really felt like home. I didn't feel like I was like being fed what I needed to be fed. Like, you know, like I wanted to be like immersed, like teach me for like 4 hours, minimum. So I'm watching The River. So I saw that Dr. Rodney Howard-Browne had a church in Florida called The River. So then I started watching that church on Sundays. That became my church. I would just sit out back of my house in Tennessee, sit outside and watch on YouTube, and the testimonies would wreck me. Like I would literally be like weeping uncontrollably. Because this was like my first time like seeing, like, because I found out that Jesus was real, but I was like, holy crap, they know that Jesus is real. Like I'm telling you guys, like this was like my first like time. I was so amazed that like other people, like I was so happy like other people knew this too, like because I'm over here thinking it's just me like being like rocked, like my world's like getting flipped upside down. Everything that I thought that I knew was not true, like politically, spiritually, all the things, like even religiously. Like I grew up Catholic, thought that Catholics were the Christians. I didn't know I didn't know anything. So a lot of things had to be like unraveled, and then God was like building me up and like depositing more and more in me, and like opening my eyes to a lot of things. I just learned so much. So back to watching The River online, the testimonies wrecked me like so much. They were so powerful, and I didn't even like process it at the time. Like, I mean, there was a lot of students testifying. I didn't know there were students. I didn't really know like what that meant. It was just a church in my mind. So then they were having a business conference. This is where like, this is so cool. This is so God, because I had been praying for God to connect me with like, kingdom business people, like kingdom connections. That's what I called it. I always said, like, I would pray for kingdom connections. Like, Lord, send me kingdom connections, because I knew I was called to business. I knew that God wanted me in the marketplace. I knew that he wanted me to be working with women. I knew that he wanted me to be helping people make money. I'm just like, I flow in that area. So I knew that God wanted to use me there. And I knew that he wanted, I also knew this I knew for sure, because I had seen some corruption in the marketplace in terms of like women, like being manipulative or controlling. And I knew that that was not of God. I knew that God wanted two things. He wanted his daughters back, first of all, because there was a lot of women lost. And just a lot of us were lost, you know what I'm saying? But in that business world, it was like lacking him. It was lacking God. And I knew that he wanted to reach them in that realm, because like the business world, it's such a beautiful place, because they're like, you know, all those women are seeking betterment. They're seeking to better their financial situations. They're seeking to better their personal situations. They want to be better, better everything, like better people, better moms, better business women, better leaders. Like there's so much beauty in that realm. Like there's so much, like, honestly, there's like a lot of pure heartedness. And then there's some that I think take advantage of the vulnerability and the pure heartedness of a lot of women in that arena. So I saw some stuff that I didn't like. And I knew that God wanted to correct some things. And I knew that God wanted his daughters in positions of influence in the marketplace. I knew that for 100% fact. So I'm praying, like, Lord, connect me with kingdom business women, like leaders who want to work for you, who will lead women well, who will just lead well in general with godly principles, with a pure heart, and lead women well. Because I'm saying, like, leaders in the business world have so many people looking up to them, and there's so much influence. Like, a leader has so much influence on their people, and that's a very powerful position to be in. So you better not mishandle it. It's really important not to mishandle that responsibility. And I knew that God wanted mature, pure-hearted, godly leaders in those seats of influence. So, because I knew that, that's what I had been praying for. Like, someone to, like, God to connect me with people who understood this type of language, who wanted that too, okay? To, like, really, like, work for God in the business realm. It's not, like, at the time, I didn't even know anybody did that. Now it's like becoming like I see it more, I guess, because I'm like in this realm. But at the time, I did not know one person. I did not know one person who thought this way, who spoke this way. I didn't even know it was okay to want to, like, be in business and also love God. I didn't know. So anyway, this was an answered prayer that there was a business conference. It was called the Convergence Conference. This was at the end of 2021. A business conference in Florida where, like, it was like the coming together of the upper and the lower springs. That's like what the like promotion was, where, like, basically, like, the church and business worlds were going to be, like, coming together. And I'm like, what? Like, I can't even believe, like, I stumbled upon this. Like, this was God, because it was what I had been praying for months, and I didn't know, like, where to find it or, like, what to do. Like, but I had faith in my heart. I knew that it was going to happen, that I would be connected with my people. I just didn't know how, okay? So I'm like, I got to go to this conference. So I invited my best friend. We go down, and she flew down. I drove down, went to Florida. I answered the altar call. I answered a couple that during that conference. That conference, I mean, it really, like, changed the game. this was like my first time really like in a church. Like I went to a couple churches in Tennessee, like I said, but this was like my first time, like, I don't know, like I went to church more during that conference than I did in Tennessee, I feel like, as a whole. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like everything in Tennessee was mostly online. So being there in person was so amazing. And like they had just gotten this like big pavilion. So we like had church outside, and it was like literally, I'm like, this is it. Like this is so cool. This is like, because like I said, I used to go to a lot of music festivals. It felt like a music festival. It felt like just like a big deal. And there was like a ton of people outside. People who like all believers, all people who love the Lord, and who also, you know, like, I mean, we were talking business. We were talking about business and like funding the end time harvest and like all these amazing things that I thought, I'm telling you guys, I thought I was the only one who thought this way. I thought they were like my own original thoughts. Like, what a great idea. Like to gather like all of God's people together and like make money, walk in purpose, like build people up. Like let's impact this world, right? This like massive like vision, this like massive mission, thinking I'm the only one with this idea. And which, that's how you know it's like the Holy Spirit, because like no one taught me that. Like I thought it was my idea. It was not my idea. It was God's idea. And he was sharing those ideas with me and connecting me with people who had like similar vision, right? So I'm at this conference, and I mean, there's so many things I could say. This is really where like the game changed. So I went from, I was living in Tennessee at the time, and I drove down to Florida for this conference. Okay, I'm going to stop this here, and then the next video I'm going to share what happened at the conference.